Thank you. Thank you. Likewise. It's very nice to be here again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's right. You spoke to my good friend Marco Flalo. You two had a very interesting conversation about the whole evolution of Breggz and how your hardware came to be. You very kindly sent me over a set to listen to, and I've got to say, I'm blown away. Blown away is the words because like I've been an AirPods Pro user for a long time. I've used the headphones, I've used the in-ear headphones, and they were the closest I would say I got to that in-ear perfection. That was the closest I'd ever come. But your headphones or your earphones, I should say, are different because they are much closer to your ear. Talk me through this process of why I'm hearing everything so much clearer. It's because the actual speaker is much closer into my ear. Is
Yeah,
that right?
that's right. But first of all, I'm so happy to hear that you like the sound because we worked hard on that.
Mm.
We were never satisfied with the quality of we weren't a few times before, so we just waited and waited and put more effort in it to get it this way. And yeah, actually, what we do is we're the only wireless hearable now in the world that is using a balanced armature driver because they're better. All artists on stage in wired hearables they use the balanced armature drivers, and you have to put them in the shell. We call it the shell, handmade. So by hand you have to put it in and then seal it off again. So it's really like an acoustic way of doing it, and that's why the sound is so great. Unless you have a 100% sealing of the ear, because that's very important. Because you don't want to have some leakage, because first of all, then you are going to lose the bass. So yeah, we have here on the smartest square mile in Europe. That's in Holland. That's the high tech campus in Eindhoven. Uh, they're building the device now, and yeah, we are now really ready for production after a long period. So everybody is satisfied and happy now.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and you can tell the difference because people have been asking me, okay, but hang on, what's the difference between this and everyone says the AirPods because and it's not because it's an equivalent, but because it's the closest most people might actually get to experiencing something which is reasonably high quality audio. Of course, Breggz I think goes further than that, and you would certainly argue, I would imagine, that it does go further than that because this is an audio driven device that's all about the quality of the audio. The AirPods, of course, are great, but they have other functionalities in terms of, especially with all these new sensors they're adding and everything else. And, it kind of goes beyond all that to some degree. I think for a true audiophile, for someone who is obsessed with the best quality audio you can get, you're going to look at someone like yourselves, like Breggz. So talk me through the process of this, because what you've done here is you've essentially taken a product which was built for musicians, that was built for people working in audio, and you're kind of, I guess, trying to build a consumer version of this. Am I right? Is that really what the purpose of this new
Yeah,
version is?
and this is exactly it. And normally I'm on. Yeah, I'm doing concerts for over 30 years now. Also big venues, and you really need this in ears on stage, yeah, to properly hear yourself right. And I was always wondering, why do I have access to this crazy good sound, live on stage, and why isn't this available for the consumer market? Because we artists all over the world spend thousands of dollars in the studios to make the sound of a new single sound pitch perfect, but then it never reaches the audience the way, yeah, you've meant it to reach them. So that was my biggest goal. And that's also what we say now: listen to your favorite song for the first time, because you're going to hear some different vocal parts or instrumental parts in a song you've never heard before, like in the good mix. So that's what we try to do. And the Apple AirPods are a great product. I love Apple, and nothing against them, but they are a mass product. They want to sell as much products as possible, fairly high standard compared to the price point. But But in the high-end wireless audio market, there aren't any players because everybody is focusing on this mass production. So we thought yeah, from a passion point of view, we really wanted this sound to reach the consumer market, but there was also not like another player in this high-end market. So both way, it was a good target group for us, like the luxury buyer, but especially the audiophile and the professionals. I think if you like a high standard in life and you like quality in life, yeah, then you really, and I think people want to pay more for a device, but they expect more quality in return, and that's what we try, and I think we achieved. We try to offer.
Yeah, it's such an important point you make. Products from Apple and others, are mass produced products, and they may be good and they're great for people, and of course they can afford to sell those at lower costs than perhaps you can. But again, the reality is that you're really focusing in on what the core of the product is about, that audio quality. And of course, one aspect of this, which is very interesting to me, is the custom molding aspect of it, because this is something which I've never really come across before on consumer products, where you can actually have essentially your own design, your own ear is essentially, you can create that little squishy bits that go in your ear, right? They can be customized to your ear.
Yeah, we thought, okay, how can we reach as much people with the product as we can? And if you always need someone putting pasta, we also always call it pasta in your ears, and then make a mold, an imprint of it. Yeah, it's not very scalable, easy scalable. So maybe it was a little naive at the start, because we just say, okay, we want to scan this with a phone, but then you get a lot of data, and it's not that this data is immediately you can immediately transfer it to a printable file. So we really are running a very powerful AI program on another platform again, to calculate all those measurements towards a printable file, and then you have to have the right printer, the right people. So we made, like, we call it a little street, and we are now, I would say, at 98% of this street. We have a little, to be very honest, because this is also for the hearing aid companies. This is a little bit the holy grail, because uh, in the end, everybody likes to scan with a telephone, because then everyone with a Wi-Fi connection is your potential customer. So now, if you put the phone on the ear, how big is this ear? So it needs something to compare with, to see how big it is. So we put now a credit card besides the ear, and we put like the phone on it, and we're almost there. So, and then we have a lot of data. AI is helping us with that, and then it can see, compared to the credit card, who always has the same measurements, how big the ear is. So we had perfect scans, like all the scans were perfect, but sometimes they were like 2% too big or 2% too small. So we are now, I think we need a few months to get it perfectly pitch perfect. But everybody now, all the interviews we did and all the reactions we had actually was on people hearing a generic set and not the custom made set, because so it's getting even better than the set. All the interviewers listen to.
Well, yeah, and I've got to say the set that you sent me was generic, and I was
Yeah,
blown away as it stood. And I'll be honest, I find I tend to, with all of these types of earbuds, I tend to have one earbud slightly bigger in my left ear than slightly smaller in my right ear. They're not exactly the
true,
same. So, I
true.
can only imagine the potential with custom. But here's the interesting bit that I want to get into, because, of course, the hearing aid market, the over-the-counter hearing aid market, is exploding at the moment. And, there's a real interest in this area. Where did that begin for you? Because, of course, you began as a company aimed at the music professional. how did you transition into hearing aids, and or at least potentially this product being used as a kind of an over-the-counter hearing aid product?
Now, I think we aren't an over the because it would be too much to say that, because but the side effect of us only using the best available parts, components, so also the microphones, then we found out that we could be a good hearable for mild hear loss, but we aren't a hearing aid product. So let me be
Okay, so
very clear, because
you're creating a distinction there. You're saying you're not right. You're not. You're saying you're not an over-the-counter hearing aid company. You're not heading down that road at this point. You're very much focusing on people who have mild to moderate hearing loss, and this could be a useful hearable.
yeah, because if you really have this 100% ceiling, and you have this perfect sound, if you put it a little louder, then you then it could be very helpful. But also our transparency mode, because if we don't have noise cancellation, because if you wear them, already cancel all the sounds. We have a noise activation. Actually, you can put the transparency mode on, and sometimes we are checking it out, and we sitting in a restaurant at a table, and if you look to a table, maybe we always say meters, but say like 8 meters. I don't know how much this is in but really yeah pretty long away. You can hear the conversation. It's incredible. And that's just like, we didn't know this before, but it's like the result of using very good microphones. So that's where we thought, whoa, this can maybe help later on. But as you said, we're not focusing on that, because if we do too many things at the same time, we don't have any focus. And so we're really focusing on the sound first. But in the future, we have a roadmap that for 5 years, we really want to take this good sound first to a lot of more places than only a consumer. But also, if you go to a live concert, and now you're buying a $300 ticket for Coldplay in a big stadium, and you're sitting halfway above somewhere you have very bad sound. Eh? Imagine wearing a hearable, and you get the sound directly from the table, and you can be the master of your own volume. That's my goal. That everywhere you are in an audience, you can have this perfect sound, and still the experience of a live concert, because you can open up the microphones a little bit and have the environment coming in. And we solved the latency problem also there. That's really a patented thing. So we are much more focusing on sound in more environments.
What's the issue with latency these days? Is Bluetooth the problem? Is Bluetooth evolving to the extent that you can start to reduce latency, or is that something that you can actually determine yourself in the product? Have you got control over that?
Yeah, it it's got to do a lot with different things, but it's normal. It's very normal that the source of the sound is earlier than if I'm on a stage. That's why all artists are wearing a wired one, because then you don't have this latency. That's why artists on stage don't wear wireless hearables yet, because it's also a very big dream of us. Because there is this latency, and actually we're working with the inventor of the Bluetooth. It's a Dutch man, and we're now together working with him in a company with Breggz in him. So we have really the latest version. So it's all about the chip that it's inside, and how fast it can calculate, and so your chip inside the ears is very important for that. And but also, if you are, for example, in an audience, and you have directly streamed the sound to your ears, but there's also sound coming from actually the PA, so the boxes towards the audience. And if the basses are very loud, you feel the bass in your body. So we have it's very important that that it's not going to interfere with the sound you have in your ears, timing wise. So then we have this patent that puts it in the same place everywhere in the stadium, because everywhere you are is slightly a different latency. So even my neighbor standing or sitting in a big stadium has got slightly different latency, and this patent is making sure that everything is the same and put it on the base of the boxes, of the speakers. So that's really interesting, and but this is a little bit the future we're talking about. But we are thinking about sound in general, uh, uh, in more environments, as I said. But first of all, we are taking this sound to the consumer and focus on that.
And I think it's good to understand where you're going, because I think it gives confidence to a buyer who's saying, well, look, I think I may invest in these. But what is the roadmap? We're always concerned these days. We've heard it so many times, not from necessarily companies like yourself, but we've heard about software development that just changes or drops off. We saw recently Sonos and IKEA, have ended their partnership, and of course, people who've bought products from them are a little bit nervous now about, okay, what does this mean for the products I've bought? So you can understand there's always hesitation when a company comes along that maybe isn't a household name yet for everybody, but they suddenly learn about these great products. They go, okay, but tell me more. So, hearing about your roadmap, I think, is really important for them. I also think, selfishly, for blind people, one issue with latency for us is when we use our smartphones with our wearable headphones, or in my case, smart glasses, or whatever it might be. That latency can really cause a problem when you're just swiping through with using voiceover. The time it's taking that voice to speak whatever you've tapped on really matters in that environment. Typing on a keyboard, if you've got latency, it can be a real problem. So the fact you're working on that latency and you're right in there at the heart of that conversation, that really matters, and it matters in so many different ways. Like you learned about the hearables, there's another example of a side effect where, by reducing that latency, you can actually improve the experience even for blind people.
Yeah, and this is really one of our missions. There's really like a deep, heartfelt passion of everybody is working for the company, and we want the audience, and it doesn't matter who it is, whether you're blind or whatever. We want everybody to have the best experience possible, and we're even thinking of that, for blind people, that you can do everything, to work with a machine only by voice, so voice commands. It already can do a lot of that, but we're in a future we're going to do more, so that you just uh, can speak to your hearable and give it like all the assignments you want it to do. So, for example, hey PA, and then you hear bloop, and then call my mom, bloop, and it's calling your mom. So that's really what we're also busy with, to make it much more convenient. Because imagine while you're in a car, and people are driving in Europe. I also think in the US or Canada, it's not. You cannot look at your phone. You can't take the phone in your hand. It's not allowed. So how nice would it be that you can do your calls in the car and not touching your phone? So we say hands and eyes not on the screen, but on the road. But at the same time, you can have a discussion, or call somebody, or pick up the phone, or so. I think that's going to be very important.
Yeah, I mean, the word inclusion has been politicized quite a lot recently. So I tend to use the phrase, which is, I think, more appropriate, which is universal design. You're designing it for everybody, ultimately.
Ultimately, yeah. First of all, we have to target it, because else the world is too big for a small company like us. And as you said, first of all, we have to win also the trust of people. And so I can also say, we are well funded. We have a very good, a very good backbone. So we're really there to stay. And but in the end, we want to be a device. Okay, it's a little bit more expensive because we have very small volumes. So if we have to order all our components, our bill of materials is much more high. But if we can go to higher numbers, also our the price goes down for us, so we can make it more affordable for everyone. So that's also a goal. But now, for us as a new company, a new start with small amounts, it's very difficult to get it more cheaper at the moment. But the future definitely will help us on that. So
I have to tell you, I have to tell you, in the blind community, that's not an unusual phenomenon. We are used to this with lots of different products because, we're a niche community. And, I think about Braille, for example, and the challenges that companies have to bring costs down because the number of units sold are small. So, we understand that argument. So one of the few communities in the world you'll talk to who will actually understand that argument pretty well. But I will say, you have got the Kickstarter running. I want to ask you a little bit about that, how it's going, and also to talk about the price. Tell us what you'd be expected to pay for the new devices.
Yeah. Now the Kickstarter is now ready. So we were able to how do you say to our pledge was there. So we did it. But what we also found out is people really need to listen to our device. So it went pretty well, but I think it's if we tell people or we show some testimonials and which are saying that it's a very great sound, you have to hear it. It's a once in a lifetime. Yeah, you only know it when you hear it. Everybody, I think maybe 500 people or maybe more, hundreds of people. I tested the set on their ears, and the reactions are always the same. It's unbelievable. I've never heard this before. People start crying. So it's really, so the proof is in the pudding, or I would say the proof is in the listening. So that's where that's a challenge for us. So it's really helpful that somebody like you with very good ears are saying that they are blown away by the sound. So so it's important for us to have a little bit of trust of the potential audience that it's really exactly better than everybody is expecting. And yeah, we really have to focus also campaign wise on that. Yeah, so our marketing is really, we're really focusing on that. And also there goes a lot of money in marketing. So now at this time, the price point is Anouk. Maybe you can tell, but because she is really in it. You're next to me. Yes. But it's now we were on 1975. Yeah, we were on 1975 at the Kickstarter. And but that were euros, eh? Yes. So that's euros. So that's what, like about $2,200. But now, because we are, we we had a big step in the company, and we also have now a ready-to-wear set. So we have a custom-made set of, let's say, about $1,600. So that's the custom-made now. So that's $600 less. And we have a ready-to-wear set because we thought, and that was also of a lot of influencers we spoke to, yeah, this sound is actually great. So I maybe don't need a custom set because they already fit me perfectly. So I might as well have this one. And that one is even cheaper. So that comes on about, I think, $1,100 or $1,100. So that's where we could go now, because we want to reach as much more people as we can.
I want to ask you a little bit about a major concern for a lot of blind people across the board on everything, and that is app accessibility for voiceover users, for people who are low vision, all of that. Are at the early stage of this, are you open to feedback? Are you open to people coming to you and saying, "Hey, I've tried all this. There's an issue here."
I think we really want to try, as I said. So now you can do a little bit with your with your head gestures and with voice commands. But we want to, in the future, we want to do a little bit more on that. But like really going into the app and have to push a button, obviously on an iPhone, it's really difficult. So you need maybe a little bit of help. that you can, because there are a few settings that you really need to do. We have this personal sound, and this personal sound is like a little hearing test you do right after you've unpacked them, um, and it's 2 minutes per ear. And right after this test, so the device knows where you have some frequency loss and also some volume differences between left and right. And it's not that it's going to put like one existing frequency a little louder, because then I think it's a little bit cheating, but it's going to put new frequencies in the mix. So you tremendously enrich the sound, and it's personal. It's a big difference. And once you've done that, just like you put your flight modus on and off, or your Wi-Fi on and off, is just the same button. You put it on, and then it's on, and then you already have your enriched sound, and it's there to stay. If it's if it's on, and so you need a little help in the beginning, but after that you're ready to go. This from this personal sound point of view. But you also have an equalizer, a live equalizer. Yeah, that's very difficult. 5-way you can adjust the sound. So you can do this with somebody next to you to put your own mix. And then it saves it, and then it's also there to stay. But if you want to play with it, it's a little bit more difficult. So in the future, we're hoping you can do this with by voice commands. But for the time being, it's you need a little help in the beginning for blind people. But then I think you're pretty good to go.
Okay. And you've mentioned the Kickstarter has kind of wrapped up now, so the product is available, right? So where do people buy it? Where can they go to learn more and also to purchase?
Yeah, they can go to our website. So Breggz, so BREGGZ.com, and there you can order them.
Fantastic. Well, listen, it has been wonderful to catch up with you, Sander.
Yeah, very very nice. Likewise, and please keep asking us the questions, because we always say we are just as smart as we think at the moment, but we aren't. We never are smart enough. So we always like people to ask us questions to make us better and think about different possibilities. So thanks for that, and thanks for the opportunity.